Micronutrients for the warrior level wellness. And I say warrior level because we're here to build the ultimate man. In today's episode, Coach Aaron and I are here to take you through a journey on the smallest detail that might be the one holding you back. You want to feel like a powerhouse again? Get that energy back, get feeling firing on all cylinders? We're here to give you that energy. And something so small could be changing the game. We'll give you back laser sharp focus, peak performance, and stable energy levels. It's all coming to you in our micronutrients episode today. I want to give you an analogy before we start. If you've ever gardened or you understand a garden, the soil is where everything begins. And you can drink all the water and pour all the water you want in the garden. You still don't have the nutrients to transport. Then you hit the gym. That's like planting the seeds. And you still don't have anything growing. Seeds are there, water's there, nutrients are still missing. So get your notepads ready because today you're going to walk away with the absolute information that's going to change the game. The nutrients, the micros. Coach Aaron's got his notepad. He's ready to rock. I'm fired up. And we feel good because micronutrients control all of the mood and the hormone and the feelings. So remember, we've talked a lot in previous episodes about macronutrient, which is, going to give you the energy and the building blocks, and it covers things on an aesthetic level. But today we're going to dive deeper. So Coach Aaron and I are here to do this with excitement, and thank you all for joining us on the Ultimate Man podcast. We're super excited. Get your notepads. We're going to walk you through the understanding of micronutrient. We're going to walk through the deficiencies and some of the common reasons that you could be deficient. We're going to take you through the food sources that might help you get those micronutrients back into your system, then potentially supplementation if it's needed, and then along with lifestyle factors that either will be affected by having a good amount of micronutrient or a deficiency and what some of those side effects could be. So back to the garden, if you want to grow great things, you have to have great soil. And that's where it's all going to begin. So Coach Aaron, welcome to the show, my brother. I know there's a lot of people out there who are looking at you right now and saying, God damn, this dude is looking ripped. He's looking shredded. He's in summer shred right now. His micronutrients have got to be banging. I mean, you're doing really well with that. And of course, if there's guys who are looking at us and saying, you guys are really inspiring, I'd love to work with you. Don't forget, you can do this alone or you can do it with us and get the coaching and the help. And Coach Aaron, you obviously know what you're doing. I'd love to have you coaching us today on the episode. We're going to ask you a lot of questions, get a lot of feedback from you. But how you doing, brother? Give us a little bit of your story right now. Where you at?
Doing great. Thank you. Great to be here. Let's help these guys just like power up their soil, man. Like get those nutrients in for the win. We're in our towards the tail end of our summer shred. I weighed in this morning. I'm at the lowest weight I've been in months and months and months. And I've lost like 18 pounds about myself now, too, and like lowest body fat percentage. And I'm getting close to my target. So I'm pretty stoked about that. And micronutrients has played a huge role in that. I've done a lot of extensive research myself and just optimizing my own, making sure I don't have any deficiencies and just getting everything, firing on all cylinders, like you said, so you can just go into the gym and crush it and have the energy and your every daily activities just to feel good. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. So your energy levels are better than they've been in a long time.
Yeah.
That's good.
Most
Excellent.
definitely.
And I also wanted to ask you too, mental health and clarity. Has anything changed in the last little while? I know when people are bodybuilding, especially guys who've been down that road before, they know that with cutting calories, getting way down low, and it's a bit of a suffering that takes place there in the brain fog and stuff. Are you experiencing any of that, or are we on the winning side are using our strategy and our structure?
Definitely on the winning side. In the past, I've done my cuts and stuff before and just gone a little bit too aggressive with them. But now we've been working together with our guys in our summer shred, and I've just been even just learning a ton in the process myself. And like I was telling you before we jumped on the podcast, like I've even actually increased my calories and my food consumption lately. My activity level's still real high, and I actually dropped weight this last week again by like another 2 or 3 pounds. And it's just all about, I want to really convey to the guys out there, you don't have to just suffer and go through the turmoil of being in like a severe calorie deficit to like lose the fat and the weight. Like you can just optimize your energy levels by not having to starve yourself and get better results.
No, I love it, man. Such a great message. And like I said, you're living proof as we look at your body and we see the leanness. I noticed it this morning when we got on the call. I was like, dude, you're leaner this week than I saw you last week. And it's like amazing. It's coming together beautifully. And it's because you're being diligent with the actual increase of those calories. So again, guys out there, if you're doing it wrong and you're kind of blown away by the information you're seeing, Aaron, and just reach out to us, have a conversation with us, see what it's all about, see how you can get involved in our program. We're not here to sell you, on something that's not going to work. We're here to give you a fast track to what you actually want to achieve. I absolutely love it. It's exciting to be in the bodies we're in after having been in bodies that we were very, very depressed in, very sad, very uninspired by, and we had no meaning. Don't forget, we sit here today as coaches, but we weren't always in this boat. We weren't always in this chair. We were on your side or potentially your side before. So we really wanted to let you know that we're the real deal here, and it's information that we're bringing you through experience. So a lot of it is anecdotal, but we do research to try to find the most recent statistics and cutting edge changes in the science too, so we can up our game too. So we're all working together here to become the ultimate man. Excuse me, I don't know where I'm getting all this phlegm from. Ultimate man. There we go. So we're going to dive into that, but I wanted to go one more thing, performance and results. Are you getting stronger in your gym, or are you getting weaker when you're working out? Like, are you holding steady, like the muscle mass? I know you came into the program saying, I want to maintain as much muscle mass as I can while I cut, because it's very common that you lose a lot of that mass. How's the strength part of it been during the process?
It's actually, if anything, probably gone up surprisingly, very surprisingly, because that was not even my intention. Like I have not really been trying to put on any extra
Mhm.
size. I've just had the mentality of like, I just want to be in muscle maintenance.
Yeah.
I want to maintain the muscle that I have as I drop the body fat, because trying to gain a bunch of muscle and lose fat simultaneously can sometimes be a little bit difficult.
Mhm.
So I've just been training, as regularly, with the same intensity, but I've actually been increasing the weights on a lot of my movements. So it's a total surprise, but it's a good surprise.
Yeah, and I think that surprise too comes from the fact that this time you're not making that severe cut and depleting your body of that energy. So you actually have energy to still go in and enjoy your lifts because you love doing it and your body deserves it. It's great. So listeners out there, understand that we're going to take you down a path that's different from what you're probably used to. And it's the path that's going to last. It's the path that's going to lead you to success. So the guys in our program right now, going into this week, we had already dealt with the macronutrients, and so we started to break those down into subcategories. And if you don't realize, there's a lot of levels to this game. We had to take those particular macronutrients and break them down further. So we started talking about cholesterol from the fats, and we started talking about sugar from the carbohydrates. We started dealing with sodium from the salt, and we started dealing with the different levels of fiber and things that are coming out of the carbohydrates. So we broke those macros down, and we found a lot of red flag items that needed to be worked on this week. So we're making progress a week at a time. Here's the good news. There's still another level and another level after that. And we keep diving deeper. And even Coach Aaron and I have to continue to go to school on this stuff to get better. But we're going to bring you what we'd call the magic pill. And that's actually the information you can apply to break that down. So you don't have to go put in all the time to do all the work. So let's have some fun today. And let's get into micronutrients. So Coach, have you got a couple off the top that you wanted to talk about before we dive in? And I also, as you're doing that, I know I wanted to make a message here to all of our listeners. Coach Aaron went through, and I'm wanting to do this as well, a recommendation we're going to start with before we give you any information on micronutrient is we don't know where you're beginning. And you may already be someone who has a very high level of any given micronutrient. If that's you, then you don't need supplementation. In fact, you want to make sure you're not over consuming and having toxic levels of anything. So it's really important that you get some sort of a blood panel work done, DNA test, anything that can give you a reading, like a feedback as to where you're sitting right now. So we wanted to go with Coach Aaron's used a particular product, and I'm going to get him to tell you about it here. What was it called, and how did you get that going, Coach?
Yeah, the one that I used that's really awesome is called Inside Tracker. I just got it from watching Andrew Huberman's podcast. It's one that he recommended, and it looked really comprehensive. I did a little research on it. I'm like, this looks great. It just dives into so many different, factors. It gives you like a blood analysis. So you go in and you take your blood, and it tells you, what nutrients you're potentially deficient in and which ones you have excess in, which is just as important too, because and then I also did its DNA test, which, gives something specific to your DNA. So, I found out, for instance, going to like one nutrient, for example, like my B12, I have a predetermined genetic predisposition to be able to be high in vitamin B12. So it's not something that I necessarily want to supplement in excess. So,
Mm.
I used to take B complex vitamins all the time because I was feeling real low in energy and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I need more B vitamins. But until you really dive into it and get a personalized blood analysis report or a DNA report, you don't want to go just like throwing extra nutrients and supplementation into your program. Because you could be potentially like over supplementing with something that you're already potentially have a genetic predisposition
Mm.
to be in excess in. So that's just one, warning that we would give you guys out there as we go through the nutrients we're about ready to talk. We're going to go over and talk
Yeah.
about. There's a lot of nutrient deficiencies that are common in everyday people these days, but it might not be for you personally. So you might want to look into if you want to go to that next ninja level status of getting some personalized blood analysis done.
That's a great start to the show. I think that's really important because we put that disclaimer right there for you guys that it's important to find out where you're at before you start supplementing. I also think about the waste of money. The supplement industry is a billion-trillion-dollar industry. There's a ton of money being dumped. People are spending $300 out of their budget to go to the store and buy all their supplements, and only to find that some of those supplements probably aren't even needed. And you're buying these vitamins and these minerals. And we're going to talk about what are micronutrients, and we'll give you that definition in a second. But we just want to start by saying find out the information as to where you're at first. And we do the same thing as we analyze our clients when they come into programs. We want to know what your diet looks like first. We want to know what kind of workouts you're doing first. We want to know, where your weight is and your measurements. Take a photo. Give us as much data as we can collect so we know where to begin. All right? Where's your garden at? What's the state of everything right now? Same thing for you. You got to find out before you start supplementing and throwing your money into it is what are we going to, so I'm just going to drop that chat box there. What are we going to be needing? And put your efforts and your money into where you actually need it the most. So let's start with that recommendation and that warning. Okay,
Yeah.
so micronutrient, the definition of a micronutrient, I'm just going to read this verbatim right off the paper here. Micronutrients are essential vitamins and minerals required by the body in small amounts to support various physiological functions. Unlike macronutrient, carbohydrate, protein, and fats, which are your macros, they provide energy. Micronutrients are not a source of calories, but critical for overall health and well-being. So keep that in mind. The micronutrients are not your calorie pieces. They're not going to move the aesthetic like we talked about. They're going to move the mood, the control, the feelings, and a lot of the hormonal stuff. Micronutrients play a vital role in numerous biomechanical processes, metabolism, immune function, energy production, bone health, antioxidant defense. We hear about all these things. We didn't know that a lot of it is down to these micronutrients we're going to talk about today. They're necessary for maintaining proper growth, development, and overall cell function. And Coach Aaron actually talked about, I think it was folate in our conversation we had before we started. I didn't even have that on my list, but very, very, in the creation of DNA. So that's a really important one. And again, it didn't come up on my list because we looked up some different information based on, what we were trying to find for today's episode. So Coach Aaron, do you want to start with the folate one just to give us a little bit of an idea what that is? And again, people taking notes can start by marking this one down.
You betcha. Yeah, so folate, it's also called B9. It's essential for, like you said, DNA synthesis, red blood cell formation, cell growth, and division. So, I mean, just think about the magnitude of this. That's like one little nutrient that's responsible for so many powerful things, right?
Mhm.
So if you're deficient in folate, that can be, very bad for a lot of things. And then alcohol is one of the, I like to talk about, like, what are the benefits of it but what are the weeds, the things that could potentially be sapping, nutrients from your soil, basically. And
Yes.
alcohol is one of the things that can interfere with folate absorption and metabolism. So, if
Yes.
you're the person that has too many cocktails on a regular basis, that might be, you could supplement with as much folate as you want, maybe, and still be deficient in it because it's counterproductive adding the alcohol on top of that.
Absolutely. So again, guys out there who know that's you can hear that information and say, "Yep, that's me." Now you might have a reason to take a look at that. And again, if you don't have a blood panel to tell you, you don't know whether you're deficient or you're on par with it. But if you are someone who has that lifestyle where alcohol might be a big part of your life, then you pretty much can, assume that you've already depleted that folate level, and you should be looking into that. At least get some advice from your doctor for everybody out there. So that's awesome on the folate. There was another one you mentioned. I believe it was iodine. And I hadn't had that on my list either today. So if you could tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so it's a key component of thyroid hormones, which regulate metabolism, growth, and development. Adequate iodine is intake is crucial for proper thyroid function and overall health. So that's why they iodize a bunch of salt is usually iodized,
Mm,
because it's a typical deficiency. And another thing that's kind of like the weed that can counter the iodine is fluoride. So a lot of people have like fluoride. A lot of people are told, "Oh, fluoride's good for your teeth or whatever," and that's
right,
actually can interfere with iodine absorption. So I like to get like the Tom's of Maine toothpaste or something of a more of
right.
a natural origin without the fluoride in it.
Nice. The thing that comes to mind right there is I've seen a lot on Instagram and stuff like that because there's a lot of information out there. Like we said, a lot of noise, and there's a lot of biohackers coming out. They've been out for years. I mean, I'm just starting to see them more now because I'm looking for them. They're coming out with these natural ways to heal the human body using the Mother Nature, right, for the most part. And when they started talking about the different salts, we talked about Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt. We talked about that with one of our guests on our show as well in the past. And then they were diving into the different ways of hacking, into the body and stuff. So there's just gonna be a lot of information out there talking about different things. And this was on the iodine, right?
Yeah,
And what were you saying again was the
fluoride.
yeah, the fluoride, right. And so in the fluoride, I lost my train of thought for a second, but they were talking about the toothpaste issue in the fluoride and
Yeah,
saying it's a lot more dangerous because you don't think of it as a lot. There's not a lot on a toothbrush, but there's actually a lot and enough to do damage in a way of they're saying, try to get a non-fluoride based toothpaste. And again, this is, new to me. I've used toothpaste my whole life. And there's going to be people who say, I don't really care. It's not that big a deal. There's going to be other people who really take it seriously and say, I'm going to switch over right now. So, you can decide who you are listening to the show, where you fall on that spectrum of whether you really consider or not, but at least give some thought to it. And as Coach Aaron said, the fluoride can play a factor on your iodine production, which now makes it a little more serious than just saying you should probably not use it in your toothpaste, right? So the severity can be, not just on surface level, but sometimes it's more of a deep-rooted change that you're seeing in micronutrient level. And that's what we want to get across today. The importance of micronutrients. It just is major when we dive deep into causations for a lot of people's outcomes.
yeah,
That's
and
really good.
the thyroid is very, interrelated with that iodine too. So, and the thyroid, if you don't know already, is like really responsible for your overall metabolism. Like you're trying to lose weight and you can't lose weight and you just have been trying all these diets and everything, you might want to get a blood test and check your thyroid levels, because if that's out of whack, then you could be trying everything you want and it's still not probably going to work.
Absolutely. I love that you pointed that out. I had a client that actually went through this exact same thing. We worked out. The nutrition was like really good. We had everything tracked. We were doing everything that we were supposed to do, and the results were not showing up. Not aesthetically, not on the scale. There was no changes, and I thought this is impossible. How does someone be so diligent doing it? There must be something they're doing at home that I can't see that they're lying to me about. It's the only formula,
Yeah.
the only thing I could come up with, right? And
Mhm.
for months, I just kind of thought in the back of my mind, you're telling me you're doing it all, but you're not, right? And I hated to doubt the person, but the end result was they finally went to the doctor only to find out the thyroid was completely out of whack. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, wow, I never thought about that at that time, right? As a young trainer, you're doing all the things you know to do, but you're not sure, why that causation could be there. And the doctor kind of came back saying the blood panel showed thyroid was right out, and they had to start taking a thyroid medication, which actually caused weight gain at one point. So we were kind of moving in a direction of like, oh my God, this is really bad because medicines and side effects a lot of times are, weight gain or, lethargy, like where you're not having a lot of energy because of the medication. So a lot of those side effects seem counterproductive, but it was to get her thyroid back on track and then able to make some breakthroughs. So really important that you brought that up because thyroid is major when we're talking weight loss, fat loss, and performance. So I like that.
Yeah.
Another one that I saw directly related to performance was iron. Can you tell us about iron and talk about that one?
Yeah, so iron's actually one that I got tested in, and I tested really high on my blood analysis because I'm a big red meat eater, as part of it. So iron's something that's a common deficiency, but again, when I look at my own personal stats, I'm like, I'm not going to want to supplement with extra iron.
Mm,
But it's crucial for the production of hemoglobin, which helps transport oxygen in the blood. So think about, that's really important for like your cardiovascular endurance, your overall energy. It also plays a role in energy production and the synthesis of neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters, those things in your head that make you think more clearly. It can lead, iron deficiency can lead to anemia, fatigue, weakness, and impaired cognitive function. So
Mm,
it's definitely something you don't want to be deficient in. And here's a little thing about, again, going back to the weeds, what you might potentially be doing that's interfering with your iron. Caffeine can inhibit iron absorption, as well as caffeine can inhibit calcium absorption to some degree, I believe, too. So it's
mm.
good to take like your calcium and caffeine doses probably a couple hours apart so that one doesn't interfere with the other. So yeah,
Interesting.
there's so many just little intricate aspects to this whole micronutrient game that you really have to get everything really dialed in.
Right, right. And we're talking to the guys out here. So you're listening to the podcast and you're saying, okay, so my iron might not be low. But here's the thing. Most of you are either dating someone who, maybe female, you're married to, maybe female. And females with menstrual cycle often suffer extreme amounts of blood loss. And in those blood platelets goes the iron. So that's very common among females versus the male, maybe not as much. In fact, what we're seeing, and we're saying this because you can take care of your loved one, relationships are a part of being the ultimate man. Great. So the second thing is on Coach Aaron's aspect here. As guys, one of our main focuses is to chase protein. We are trying to jack the protein up to make sure we're at least getting a gram per pound of body weight, right? And so Coach Aaron's eating a lot of red meat source. He's eating a lot of, spinach and greens and things like that. These are high iron sources of food. And so he's got a very high iron level by, not because he was chasing iron, but because he was chasing high protein. And this is something that he had to find out when he goes to look at what should I be supplementing with, right? You notice your blood panel shows back. Do not go chasing iron. You're at the top end. In fact, like you need to tone it down a bit, if
Yeah,
anything, right? On
yeah.
the iron. So you start to choose proteins that maybe have less iron to help you kind of balance things out. But that's really important to know, right? Because guys just kind of blindly start taking everything in pursuit of like, I just want to get bigger, I want to get leaner, I want to look like Coach Aaron over there, so I'm going to do everything. Well, listen to us then, right? If you want to look like this,
Mm.
listen to the information. It doesn't mean that what we do is going to work 100% for you, but we're going to steer the ship right for you, and then help you make educated decisions for yourself, right? So I think that's really important. So iron is a major player, especially when you talked about like that feeling of not just anemic, but the performance value decrease. When you start to get really tired, dizzy, you're getting the lightheadedness and you're not lifting, but yet you feel like all the other things are in place. Iron can be the culprit behind all of that. And I've seen it firsthand with clients. So I know that you're speaking from, experience as well in having that. Although in your case, obviously your performances are usually probably really rocking because your iron levels are excellent. So
Yeah.
very good. I think we both shared a micronutrient called vitamin D at the top. And this, biohackers are going to tell you get out and get sunlight. Morning first light, get sunlight, get out and get out of your dark dungeon of the basement where you're video gaming and wasting your life away. Get out and get some sun on your skin. Here's another thing too. Guys who are not confident, you're sitting there and you're hiding behind a hoodie, a sweater, and your skin never is exposed. Even if you went outside, you'd be wearing a big sweater. The sun's not going to hit you. And you have to have that sunlight on your skin to actually start to create this vitamin D because the body can turn and I believe it's an interaction with the cholesterol in the body that actually creates vitamin D in the skin, in the body. So get out there and get your skin exposed. Now, obviously do that within reason. We're not asking anybody to run out there nude and get arrested, but definitely try to expose as much of
Yeah,
your body
go
as
for it.
possible.
Live it up a little bit. Superman up, man.
And then come back in the comments and tell us how it went.
Was just trying to get my vitamin D, bro. Officer.
Cuffed up behind your back. I just came for the vitamin D, man. And don't forget to tell the police to watch the Ultimate Man podcast so you have
Yeah.
your defense ready to go, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So vitamin D comes in as essential for bone health, immune function, and hormone regulation. So again, if your hormones are all out of whack, sometimes sunlight's going to be one of the major game changers for you, and that's just natural. That's Mother Nature gifting us with the ability to get some vitamin D. When we talked about the causations, Coach Aaron was talking about these reasons that you might be deficient. If you're limited sun exposure, absolutely going to happen. Regions where the winters are long, you're not going to be outside as much, and if you do go outside, you're covered up, like I talked about. Those are reasons to be deficient in vitamin D. People who do go out in the sun but use an excessive amount of sunscreens, you're actually blocking the sun's rays from getting to the skin. Therefore, high sunscreen usages, aside from all the chemicals and things that are being put in them. That's another conversation altogether. People talking about absorption of chemicals from these sunscreens. But what we're saying is if you're sunscreening the body, then you're not getting the sun's rays into the skin to create that vitamin D. You may have a need for supplementation there as well. And inadequate dietary intake, which would be foods that contain vitamin D that you're not getting enough of. And a lot of times that's coming through fruits and vegetables and things like that. So keeping in mind that in our program, we take everybody through this and we help you to understand which ones are going to get you the best results. But these are some reasons you might be deficient in vitamin D. What do you want to add to the vitamin D, Coach?
Um, I just would give maybe one recommendation or a couple of, like, sunlight's a good one, maybe, and then fatty fish is another good one. Cod
Mm,
liver oil. So I think we're going to touch on omega-3 fatty acids and the benefits of
yes.
like getting enough EPA and DHA in your diet, which is so crucial for mood and performance and everything. So there's another source of vitamin D just to kind of throw out there for you. Some cod liver oil is a good one, and then you're getting your vitamin D and your omega-3 fatty acids. Double punch right there, right?
Pop, pop. Yeah, brother. I love it. So there you go, guys. If you're taking these notes, make sure that you're writing down some of these tips and strategies that coach has given you because they're going to make the game change for you. The next one I want to talk about was I think we both had on our list was magnesium and magnesium deficiency. Major in your soil here. The role of magnesium involved in over 300 enzymatic, and I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but it's enzyme or enzymatic reactions, including energy metabolism, muscle function, and nerve transmission. So I think about those words triggering me, right? Metabolism, right? I'm thinking body fat reduction right away. Muscle function, I'm thinking workout quality, right? That's my muscle function. And nerve transmission, that's literally all the signaling from my spinal, my brain to my spine to my muscles. So all of that's affected by magnesium deficiency. That's all the shit I'm working on, right? Like literally, if I don't have magnesium in place, all of those things that really trigger me that I'm working on are affected. How many guys out there relate to those things right now, right? Your metabolism, your muscle function, your nerve transmission, those are all huge. And so causation, poor dietary intake, of course, foods low in magnesium. High consumption of processed foods actually counters, causing you to lose magnesium. Excessive alcohol, back to where Coach Aaron was with the alcohol conversation. Guys who are drinking, again, we're going to say live a little, but we're also going to say understand the consequences, right? And certain medications. We do have to realize that some people are on medications, some of them for diuretic effect. And if you are on any type of diuretic medication, you are excreting a lot of fluid. Just like sweating, you're losing sodium through your sweat, potassium through your sweat. You can also lose quite a bit through diuretics. So be careful if you're on any kind of medication that has a diuretic effect. And digestive disorders that can affect absorption. And some people do have literally, disorders that they've been diagnosed with that are very valid. And we're not here to discredit those. So those are reasons that you may have magnesium deficiency as well. Coach, let's talk magnesium for a moment. What do you have?
It's one that's actually at the top of the list as far as like being deficient in the American diet, from other things that I've researched, and I've taken it for years now. I take a little supplement called Magnesium Calm. Also, there's another good one that I got from Huberman called Magnesium 3 and 8. That's
Mm,
really good. That helps crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it's a lot more easily accessible than other sources of magnesium. So I take it to help me sleep at night. It's just good to help, like you said, nerves and muscle relaxation. So it's one that's definitely going to be in my repertoire for a long time.
nice. I like that you talked about sleep there for a second because you were talking about magnesium for sleep. A lot of people who haven't seen our sleep episode, you got to go back and watch that. We spent about an hour talking about tips and strategies on how to get a good night's sleep, right? And magnesium is one of those things where you can actually supplement to use it to help you get a better night's sleep. So watch that episode if you haven't already and understand that sleep and magnesium and hormone reset and all this stuff are working together to create the ultimate man, which is what we're here to do. So we're trying to give you that information. Are there any specific foods that come to mind? I had written down pumpkin seeds, spinach, and almonds as sources of magnesium. Do you have anything that's along those lines or a food recommendation?
Yeah, avocados, dark chocolate, bananas. I love avocados. I have avocados almost daily. So
Absolutely.
yeah, pick a handful of those and add them into your diet if you don't already.
Perfect. I love it. Let's move to the next one. I've got in here calcium coming in, and I always, as a kid, heard calcium's good for your muscles and your bones, right? Drink your milk, and we've realized that milk contains a lot of sugars, and milk's become almost demonized now. I don't think anybody drinks real milk anymore. They're all like it's almond milk or it's soy milk or it's there's some kind of a different filtration process to make milk now. But again, we're talking about calcium here. So can we get calcium in different ways? Well, let's figure it out first. What is calcium? So crucial for bone health, teeth, muscle function, and nerve transmission. Once again, on calcium. So I was like, those are some of those same things I was really crediting in magnesium as well. They kind of work hand in hand. Calcium deficiencies can come from inadequate intake, especially in populations with low dairy consumption, which we just talked about, the dairy part of it. Lactose intolerant individuals, usually if you can't tolerate lactose, you're having a hard time eating dairy, you could be someone who falls victim to calcium deficiency. And then again, certain medications, vitamin D deficiency affecting calcium absorption. So let's talk about calcium for a second. Coach, what do you have on the notes for calcium in this one?
Let's see. Well, sardines is actually a good one, like canned sardines with the bones in them, which I know you're a big sardine
Mhm.
fan. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, tofu. You can get some calcium in tofu. I was pretty much allergic to dairy as a kid, which I've kind of got over as I've got older, thank God, because now I can have some little ice cream now and then without it killing me. But I used to
Yeah.
stay away from dairy for years and years. And I've actually had a lot of joint problems and hip replacements and stuff, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if some of that stuff is related to just being low in calcium. Maybe this is just a hypothesis, but it could have
Right.
been a contributing factor. So supplementing with calcium is definitely something that I do now.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned sardines. That's one of my favorites. I'm huge on that. Some people will say gross, stinks, don't want to do it. Dairy products like milk or yogurt or cheese, they've got it, again, these are some of the researches we've done. And again, we're not scientists here. We're taking information that we've found, doing the homework for you, right? And educating ourselves. But 1 cup of milk, as far as dairy goes, about 300 milligrams of calcium. So you take that and you put it into yogurt or cheese form. Do your homework, do a little research, read a label, put it in MyFitnessPal, and it'll spit back information. MyFitnessPal is a great way to learn in this journey because we do this with our clients. We have them enter things that you're eating into the journal, into the diary, right? And FitnessPal will spit back how much potassium's in there or how much calcium's in there. It does give some of the micronutrient dosages. And again, the information may not always be 100% accurate, but it's better to learn something about the foods you're eating. So I recommend highly putting these foods into your journal, figuring out number one, how much you're eating in a day, but also where the micronutrients are coming from. So calcium on the list is the third one. The next one I had on there was vitamin B12. Coach Aaron already touched on this. He was talking about the B complex. And when we talked about folate, also know that folate is known as vitamin B9. So we're going to talk about vitamin B12 now. And this is why the B complex was important because it kind of had a little bit of all the B vitamins. It's like your multivitamin for B vitamins, right? Is your B complex. But let's just talk specifically about vitamin B12 in the information on this one, necessary for red blood cell formation, nerve function, and DNA synthesis. So this kind of just like when you talk about folate, the DNA synthesis is really important. Vitamin B12, in the deficiency or causation, decreased stomach acid production. This is common with age. For people who are on the aging population scale here, you may find your deficiency in B12. Vegetarian or vegan style diets lacking any animal product could be victim to low B12. Gastrointestinal disorders affecting absorption. So if you've got any kind of gut health or SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, these types of things can affect the absorption of vitamin B12. And the last thing I had on there was certain medications. Once again, we have to understand that medicine, as it's trying to fix one thing, can also affect another. And there's a lot of side effects that can leave you deficient in B vitamin or any other of these micronutrients. So keep in mind, if you're taking medication, talk to your doctor about the side effects so that you know if it's completely draining out something else and you're lacking performance or getting results from it. So, Coach, take us into vitamin B12. Any experience you've had with that particular one, and any foods you recommend right away that might help people get on track?
B12 is one that on my DNA test, I tested for that. I had a predisposition to be actually high in B12.
Mhm.
It's one that they recommended not supplementing with, but I'm actually in normal range, so it's not too high. It's right where it needs to be. Um, I was sorry, I was making notes on my on
That's
just
okay.
the
Yeah.
previous one for a second. I want to go back just for a second to the calcium. I was in the store getting some calcium and magnesium the other day, and one of my friends that works at the health food store, we'll have to have her on sometime. She's a really guru when it comes to supplements and stuff. She
Love
said I
that.
definitely want to make sure that I take some vitamin K with that as well. So I'm not
Mm.
sure,
Yeah.
all the intricacies of why that is, but I know the calcium is involved in blood clotting and stuff like that too. So there's an
Yes.
interrelationship between
Yes.
calcium, blood clotting, and having vitamin K, which we don't have on our list here, but that would probably be added to the repertoire as well.
Yeah, I actually personally take a K2 vitamin on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
again, it is for the purposes of blood clotting and um, so yeah, and again, we can do the research on those particular ones. But yeah, it is very important, and I think that having her on the show would be excellent because again, it's always nice to have an expert who really dives into that area. As coaches, we try to be, a little bit of greatness in all areas, and then really great in our coaching, right? The ability to communicate the information back to you and give you guys the we always say the motivation, the accountability, the structure, and the knowledge. That's our goal. That's our game. That's our expertise. But we want to bring on people to the show who are experts in other areas as well. If you personally have any experts you'd like to hear from, let us know. We can try to get them on the show for you as well, because you, as our viewers, are the reason we're here, right? So we appreciate you. But yeah, I like that. The vitamin K2 could be added to that list. You had mentioned in our conversation earlier when we talked about foods, beef was one of the ones that we've used a
Yeah.
lot. Was there anything else that you had found?
Fish, salmon, trout, tuna, and sardines are also high in B12, and egg yolks as well.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and I wrote egg yolk down because I didn't have that on my sheet as well. I'm such a big fan of the omega-3 fatty acids, the fish, and we're going to talk about that one coming up. But egg yolk wasn't on my list, and I thought, hey, that's another one that I really enjoy. So definitely doing that in there. I had one of our guys in the Ultimate Man project today. I think he got into something I've never experienced before, and I believe it was, I could be wrong. It was a type of egg from a different animal. I don't know, it was a duck egg or
Oh yeah,
something
yeah,
like
duck egg. It was a
it
duck
was a
egg.
duck, yeah. And he said, "Oh boy,
Yeah.
I better be careful doing that one." I'm guessing it's the size of the egg, the size of the yolk, and everything else. But his numbers that went into Fitness Pal, I'm gonna have to double check them to see if they're
Yeah.
accurate. But it was outrageous. The cholesterol, the sodium level, I mean, whatever it was, the numbers were like, what do you call astronomical? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yep,
It
yep.
was like I've never seen anything like this. So again, we'll check for the validness of that. But if
Yeah,
any
it
of you
was.
out there are farmers and you know about duck eggs, come in the comments and tell us a little bit about what you know. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll have to fact check that as well. But I think from the screenshot he put up, it was like 47 grams of fat for a couple duck eggs or something. So,
Yeah, it was like two
uh,
two duck eggs, I think.
yeah, I'm not sure if that was correct or not. I'm fact checking right now, but I was like, whoa, two eggs,
Yeah,
47 grams of fat. That's your whole fat for the day right there, broski.
literally, literally. Yeah, it's like you can't have anything else for today in the fats. I'm not sure what the protein rank on that was, but I was like, that's pretty crazy. But the cholesterol was also way out the chart there with very high, high in the fats that way.
Oh,
So,
oh, which goes back to our other point about we just mentioned egg yolks a second ago too. Egg yolks are good for the, like we said, is for B12. But another thing we did at our summer shred with our Ultimate Men the other day is we were looking at their macronutrients and their fat and their cholesterol content is one of the things that we were checking on, and the
yes,
cholesterol was through the roof. And we were looking at the diet a little bit closer, and it was because he was having multiple eggs per day every
right.
day. So
Yeah.
you gotta pay attention to all those little factors and make sure you're not overdoing it on the cholesterol for sure.
That's a really good point because as we're dialing things in and we're getting towards we always said our programs run in about a 12 week, right? So as we approach those 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, those last 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, we start to really dial things in for you to help you understand that you've come a long way, but to move the needle more, we got to make a few little small changes. And so we went into the cholesterol levels as one of those changes. And again, like we said, that's a subdivision of your macronutrient. And today we're helping you guys go even deeper into the micros. So calcium, I think we had talked about that one. Did we already discuss calcium? Yeah, calcium, then B12. So I had zinc on the list. Now, I think, Coach, you had zinc on the list as well, right?
Yes, I think so.
And the reason I had zinc on there is because I was doing a little research when getting sick I myself don't get sick very often at all, which I'm very thankful for. And I think it has a lot to do with my nutrition, my gut health, my soil, and the fact that I work from home. So I'm not always out in the public where everybody else is sick and then spreading airborne virus, right? But I do have people who are often getting sick, and I'm thinking it could be low quality in the soil. So zinc was one of the ones recommended for immune function, like basically, fighting off a cold, supporting immune function, wound healing, hormone regulation, and again, DNA synthesis. Zinc is major important. Then I listened to a Huberman podcast. They had a whole big talk on zinc, and I was like, okay, this is the real deal. I'm starting to really see that zinc plays a major role. When I looked at deficiencies and causes, inadequate dietary intake is obviously the one where you're not eating enough zinc-based items. Vegetarian and vegan style diets lack zinc-rich animal foods. And digestive disorders impairing absorption, which again we talked about. They gave an example of Crohn's disease. Some people who have or are familiar with Crohn's disease, you may actually see major zinc deficiency. And increased zinc excretion due to stress, which is 99% of the population these days, completely stressed out. You could actually be falling victim to low levels of zinc. Now remember this, if your zinc levels are low, you're more likely to get sick. Now if your stress levels are high, you're more likely to have low zinc. You see the common denominator there. You're getting stressed out. You're causing yourself to get sick. That's just byproduct of your natural enzymes, your natural behaviors. So illness and certain medications that you're taking, again, diuretics can have a major impact on zinc. But when we talk about zinc, Coach, have you got any experience or anything there in the ways of tips, strategies, and food items or anything that we talk about with zinc?
I've always gotten like, the little zinc lozenges and stuff, like zinc with echinacea is a really good one to boost the immune system if you start thinking you're going to have a cold or something. It's also in meat as well. Beef, pork, and lamb are good sources. Oysters,
Yeah,
nuts and seeds.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
And
so
then
I
go
go ahead. Yeah.
ahead. I was just thinking back. I was doing a little research on ZMA is one that I've heard
Yeah.
before too, that Coach Tobias was actually talking about at one point that he's got in his supplement regimen. And I think it's real beneficial for hormones and testosterone production and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah,
That's
zinc,
perfect.
that's
Yeah.
zinc, magnesium, and vitamin B6 is that ZMA.
Yeah. Excellent. And again, all micronutrients we're talking about, they've created a product that contains all three. But yeah, on the topic of zinc as well, as we were discussing the oysters, one of my favorite things that I had found when I came across it was every one of these micronutrient has a recommended daily allowance or an RDA. And you can look these up for yourselves. We give these to the people in our Ultimate Man program so that they know what they're chasing. So we have the right amounts, and then they can do their blood panel to see if they're above or below or whatever it is. So we're gonna cover that with our guys in our program. But to give you an idea, with the RDA on zinc, it was 11 milligrams per day for the general population. And so when I looked at oysters, one of my absolute favorite, because I was interested to see what it could offer me, and it says a 3-ounce serving of cooked oysters provides approximately 74 milligrams of zinc. I'm like, that's like 6 or 7 times the daily recommended. I was like, man, I'm doing okay, right, on that. So I don't think I need to go and get a ton of zinc supplement. But that might also be part of the reason, by being someone who eats a lot of oysters, that I don't get sick as often, right? Remember we were talking about that whole immune system thing. And again, it might just be a lot of this is the foods you choose are either weakening you or strengthening you against these types of things. So why not build the Ultimate Man, physique, but also build the Ultimate Man garden inside that's creating a much better performance indicator than physique. And physique's great. It's a byproduct. It's great to look good, but ultimately it's better to be healthy, right? And I think that's where we're really going with today's episode. Understand the value of what you're taking away from this is really the most important part of the journey, is getting it right on the finest levels of your soil. So that was big on zinc. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Coach?
No, just that I've heard it's also really good for the libido and just being able to perform, like you want to be able to perform too, and that's never a bad thing. So eat those oysters.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. All right. Now, so after zinc, I had vitamin C on the list. We've heard about that in like the vitamin C from the orange juice as a kid. That was always drink your orange juice. Now we've seen the high amounts of sugar in the juices of fruits. We don't even recommend it anymore. I know I don't give it to clients anymore. I don't think you're pretty big on fruit juices either, Coach. You're probably not going that route. Although it says
Yeah.
vitamin C, because it acts as an antioxidant, supports immune function, collagen synthesis, and iron absorption. And we go back to Coach Aaron talking about iron. And it's like, okay, vitamin C is a major player in the absorption of iron, which is important. So when I went over to the deficiencies and causes, inadequate fruit and vegetable intake could lead to a deficiency in vitamin C. People who smoke, this was one that was really new to me. I didn't realize that, because again, you always hear smoking's bad for your health. Great. We know that on a generalized term. They've even tried to scare you by putting images on the package that look disgusting, lungs and teeth and all the other stuff. And people still smoke, so they're not scared enough, right? So I was like, what's going to really scare people? If you're thinking about it, smoking can actually take your vitamin C down. There's our timer, coach.
Okay, getting close, getting close.
We're getting close to the end, folks. We keep a little timer to keep ourselves accountable and our structure on track. So with vitamin C inadequacy, smoking can actually take the vitamin C levels down. And when we saw what vitamin C can do for the body as an antioxidant, a support of the immune function, you realize that smoking could be causing more problems than just that lung that you're looking at or whatever it is. So vitamin C, certain medical conditions can also cause absorption issues. And again, excessive alcohol showed up. So once again, alcohol draining micronutrients from your garden soil. Shit doesn't grow when the garden's full of soil and full of poison in the soil. It's just the end of the day, right? So you're working out, you're doing everything you can to build, you're planting the seeds, you're watering it, and nothing's growing. This could be it right here. It could be dealing with low vitamin C deficiency. So Coach, what do you have for us on the vitamin C? Do you have any specific foods for vitamin C or anything you could recommend to help people who might be low and deficient in it?
I mean, everybody pretty familiar with vitamin C. I think it's also in
Okay.
all sorts of fruits and veggies. But one thing that's kind of a little trivial tidbit of information that might be interesting to do some research on, that I've heard some interesting things, is that antioxidants, vitamin C, and all the antioxidants might not necessarily be good. And let me know if you've heard this as well, like post workout, because you get the stress
Mm,
response from
free
during the
radicals.
workout, and you want to actually keep that stress response going for a little bit after the workout. There's that inflammation, that hormesis is actually a good thing. So you
Yes.
might not want to take your antioxidants right after a workout. Don't high dose on your vitamin C right then. Maybe
Yeah.
take them away from your workout, and that might be more beneficial. Have you heard
Yeah,
that, something
100%.
similar to that?
Yeah, 100%. And we're talking about free radicals there that are floating
Yeah.
around the body to actually do a job, and you're trying to antioxidant, like you're trying to kill the free radicals, which are actually helping you. They're purposefully doing a job. So you're right, 100%. So if you haven't realized by this point, there are levels to this game, but there's also, now we're talking timing of nutrients that are even good for you, the stuff that we do want in the body, but when we want it can change the outcome as well. So that's really important that you mentioned that. As you're talking about that, I was a couple of foods that came up on the list was like bell peppers, red and yellow bell peppers. I use these a lot in my diet. But again, are we using them right after the workout? So much so that we're getting a lot of vitamin C, and maybe, countering what Coach Aaron was just talking about. What about the timing of these foods? So if you want to put it all into structure, again, get coaching and help from a nutritional specialist or coaches like ourselves who study in this stuff and we apply it. And we're, this is our job. It's what we do. And we're here to do it in a fun and exciting way to keep everybody on track, but also get that blood work done. Find out if you're already deficient or not. So important. So that was another one for us. Then we talked about omega-3 fatty acids, which I just wanted to make sure we've already stressed the importance of these. Omega-3 fatty acids are, and I'm just going to go back here for a second, essential for heart health. That's one of the main ones that really triggered for me was the heart. The brain, we always hear about omega-3 fatty acid coming from fish. And that's really important. And Coach Aaron talked about DHA and EPHA or whatever it was, EHA. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But brain function, I've always heard that fish was brain food. People say, eat your fish, it's good for your brain food, clears up the mental fog. And now I understand the correlation because of the omega-3 fatty acids from the fish makes it a brain food. I also use walnuts for the same idea, those essential fats. Inflammation regulation. Listen, most people out there are suffering with inflammation, tons of inflammation. You should be getting more omega-3 fatty acids. And then mood stabilization. We talked about mood being one of those things that affects, whether you're motivated to work out or do anything, or you're in a good mood, bad mood. A lot of that comes from the soil of the garden. So omega-3s, some of the reasons you could fall victim to being low in this: low consumption of fatty fish, which we just talked about, if you're not a fish eater. Plant-based diets lacking the ALA, rich foods, alpha-linoleic acid. Flax seeds and walnuts are a great example of those types of foods you want to get into your diet. And high intake of omega-6 fatty acids relative to omega-3. So again, the omega-6 and the omega-3, you might even see there's supplements now, omega-3, 6, 9, that has all the different omegas, kind of generalized again, like the B complex. But you can dive into omega-3 specifically. So Coach, take us down that street for a second with the couple differentials there. You were talking about the DHA and the, was it EHA?
EPA, EPA and DHA.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm not going to try to pronounce them because I'll just look like an
Yeah.
idiot. So I'll leave that to
Yeah.
Huberman and those guys. But I'll just give you kind of the overarching broad spectrum view from what I've gathered is like not only are they good for just, mental health, a lot of people are actually supplementing. There's they're actually giving prescription like omega-3 fatty acids, the EPA
Hmm.
and DHA, as a replacement for like SSRI drugs and stuff to that.
Right.
It's that beneficial for like mental health. It's also great for the joints. I take it just to help, ease joint pains and keep things more lubricated and stuff.
Right.
Food cravings. It's great for getting rid of food cravings. If you're deficient in essential fatty acids, your
Hmm.
cravings are going to be elevated. And then
Right.
another thing is you want to they're really prone to like rancidity, so it's probably better to keep them in the fridge as well.
Ah, good tip. Very good
Yeah.
tip. Yeah, because it's cold water fish, cold water temperatures, cold temperatures for keeping them preserved, and it's great to keep them in the fridge. That's a good tip. It made me think of something too. We've been talking about the importance of all these micronutrients, these vitamins, and there are four: vitamin A, E, D, and K, which we've spoken about in today's podcast. Those are all fat soluble vitamins. And if you don't have the amount of fats for that digestive property at that time, that vitamin does not get broken down and utilized properly. So your omega-3 fatty acid is actually providing the fats to help break down and absorb those particular vitamins. So again, if you're taking your vitamin D supplement, your vitamin K supplement, or whatever it is you're taking, and you're not providing the magnesium and the fats to go with these types of things, they work in conjunction with each other. You may not be getting absorption at all. So omega-3 fatty acids, for that reason, for digestive absorption properties, is huge. So I wanted to add that to the list there because you were right on track, Coach, with the omega-3 fatty acid talk right there.
Yeah, and they're also the ones that you're more prone to they're fat soluble so that you could be more prone to toxicity with them as well. So
Mm.
those are the ones you want to be real careful about not going overboard. Whereas like the vitamin C and stuff are water soluble and you can go pretty high dose on vitamin C and not do anything other than shit your britches if you go too high.
Yeah. Right on, right on. Good stuff. Okay, so that takes us to the last ones that I had on the list, which was vitamin A. Vitamin A is important for vision. Again, a lot of people suffer with eye issues. Vitamin A, immune function, skin health, and cell differentiation. So ultimately, a lot of that big word stuff goes past me, but vision stuck out right away. I was like, vitamin A for the eyes is really important. The causation. So again, this may be a reason that you're deficient in vitamin A. Insufficient intake of vitamin A rich foods, like again, we mentioned something in our program a lot with sweet potato, very high in vitamin A, great source. And we're like, well, now use that. That's great. We keep it up, right? But again, maybe if you're like Coach Aaron, when we're getting all that high iron from all the meats and stuff, you may want to taper that down if you're already someone who's way high on vitamin A. And so poor fat absorption, certain medical conditions, and alcohol, again, can cause deficiency in vitamin A. So when we look at those factors, again, people who are drinking alcohol, you're seeing a common denominator here. That's a major game changer for your micronutrients. Then your mood and your hormone balance and all of it is a downward spiral. So again, question why you do it. Is it for the right reasons and is it benefiting you? So we're not here to do an alcohol anonymous a meeting, but you're starting to see that it's showing up quite often, isn't it? Coach Aaron, what about vitamin A? Do you have any notes on that or any food recommendations?
Liver, fish oils, cod liver oil, as well, like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sweet potatoes, carrots, spinach, bell
Mm,
peppers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And I saw a carrot on my list as well. And I thought, well, that's cool. I don't eat a lot of carrots, but if you're someone who's deficient, this might be a great solution for you. And we're not saying it's perfect for everybody, but if you're deficient, these are some great tips to add back in and get your day, turned around, get your body turned around, get your soil turned around. That's what we're here for. So vitamin A on the list. And vitamin E was also on the list of important micronutrients. We're almost at the very end here. Functions as an antioxidant. And again, we talked about that, protecting cell and immune function. So vitamin E this time, deficiencies Low dietary intake of foods like nuts, seeds, and vegetable oils can actually provide vitamin E. If you're missing those in your diet, you might be low on there. And then there's liver or gallbladder disease affecting fat absorption. So you'll notice this one has a lot to do with the fat absorption part of it as well. And remember, we said vitamin E is a fat soluble vitamin. So keeping that in mind. Are there any food or recommendations, Coach, on vitamin E?
I know a lot of people have like vitamin E in their skin products and stuff too, so it's really good for the skin.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as food sources, I don't have any off the top of my head here. I'm looking it up, but
Funny enough, I was looking through here for supplement dosage and recommendations, but I don't have any vitamin E foods on the list either. We will have to come back to you on that one, as we always do. We'll make sure that we get the information out there if we don't have
here
the
we go.
information.
Here we go. Vitamin E. Let's go. Food sources: nuts and seeds, vegetable oils, green vegetables, spinach, broccoli, kiwi. Yeah, almonds, sunflower
Perfect.
seeds, hazelnuts. So I think the big message to a lot of the guys out there is just that like add some foods to your repertoire. You know, if you've just been eating the same things, especially if it's processed foods, like just get out of your comfort zone and add some carrots and some new nuts and like some
Mm.
foods that have some more micronutrient dense value to them, and don't just get stuck in your old ways of eating the same old thing over and over. Like really just diversify your diet.
Totally. And I think that's it because as guys, I know I'm victim to this as well, and I've been guilty of it quite often, is to not have a lot of fruits and vegetables in my diet at all. And I've even taken the route of going supplementation wise for greens and trying to get all that in there. But at the end of the day, the fruits and vegetables, the fiber you're going to get from there, it's all beneficial to the garden soil we've been talking about today. That analogy couldn't hit home more for me. I'm not a guy who's green thumb out in the garden all the time, but I get it. I'm trying to grow something really great in my body, then the soil has to be nurtured. The nutrients come from these micronutrients. So when we're talking about the last one on here, the potassium, the one on this one is regulating fluid balance, muscle contractions, nerve impulses, and blood pressure. And I thought about this in the form of workouts, 100% workout based for me. Fluid balance, definitely need that for muscle contraction. Muscle contractions itself is all about workout. And then nerve impulses, your response from each of your exercises. Blood pressure, your blood pressure goes up and down, right? When you're working out, when you're lifting or you're resting. It's all, to me, this says workouts. If I don't have my potassium right, my workouts are going to suffer. 100%. So how do we become deficient in potassium? Looking over at the list here, I'm jumping all over the place now. I got papers everywhere. Um, so where did I
Hey,
put
but
that
we
one?
nerd out on this stuff, guys, just to let you know. This is like what we like to nerd
Yeah,
out on.
man.
So if you're a busy baller guy and you just like don't want to have to spend hours researching to get updated on all the new information out there, just like that's one of the reasons why we do coaching is so you don't have to do all this stuff yourself. We like to dive into the like intricacies of this stuff and figure out how we can optimize your health. So
That's right. I love that. And thank you for the cover there because I was trying to find all my notes. So I appreciate that.
I got you, man.
Yeah.
No.
Under potassium, this was what kind of blew me away. And I tried this myself in the form of supplementation. It says potassium supplements are not typically recommended unless under medical supervision. Focus on obtaining potassium from food sources like fruits and vegetables. And when I went into supplementation to look, the dosage on a supplement for potassium over the counter is extremely low. I could never make sense of this. So the recommended daily, like the RDA for potassium was 3,400 milligrams. But when you go to the shelf to get a potassium supplement, it literally, I think it was about 35. I could be wrong, but it seemed very low. And I was like, oh my gosh. So there might be something to that in saying that don't go chasing a supplement on this. Try to get potassium through food sources. And that was basically, where I was starting to look at which foods bring the most potassium. So have you got that list in front of you, Coach, for the potassium one? Because now I have got
Yeah,
sheets everywhere.
bananas, sweet potatoes, spinach, avocados, beans, tomatoes.
Yes, there it is. Yes. So important, right? And again, if you're introducing these foods to your diet because you haven't had it in a while, that's really going to make a difference for you. But the blood test, the blood panel to tell you whether or not you've had enough already in your diet. I've noticed in my Fitness Pal when I enter my foods in, potassium is one of the ones that it does give a reading on. and I noticed it was extremely low for a while. Then I started introducing things back into the diet that maybe I wasn't having for a while, and avocado became one of my absolute favorite things to add. You mentioned you have one a day. I absolutely love avocado. It had a lot of these micronutrient benefits to it, even in the source of fiber. I mean, it was one of those ones that covered a lot of the bases. So I call some of these my superfoods, right? The ones that you don't want to go a day without, and they're very important to you. So hopefully today in our episode, despite all the information that we've overloaded today, we have a tendency as coaches to really want to help and and over deliver. So, Coach Aaron, I appreciate all of your feedback, all your research that you did today to help us out here. And I know the guys who are having any questions, still after all that, are going to reach out. They're going to get that help that they need. So we want to invite you to do that, guys. Anything you want to add to the micronutrient talk today, Coach?
Like and subscribe to the Ultimate Man podcast on YouTube and Spotify. You got to do it. It's just,
Yeah.
if you got to join our tribe of high vibe, it's what we're all about here. We want to help you guys level up and lean out. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you again today. Have a great concert tonight, brother. Lawrence is going to a
Thank
concert
you.
tonight. Yeah,
Yes. We're
so
about to head out of town. I got a 3 hour drive ahead, so gonna get some good fuel in the system and good to go. Fuel in the vehicle, fuel in my vehicle. Be ready to rock. Have a good evening this evening. So this episode's coming out on Sunday, as we always do. So today will be Sunday. You're watching this right now. Happy Sunday to everybody out there. And Coach Aaron and I are filming these in advance, so we want to let you guys know that if we make any statements here and anything changes by then, we will correct it in the show notes to give you guys updated information if anything changes. But Coach Aaron, keep the grind, brother. You're looking great, shredded, feeling good, energy's up. I love it. And we'll talk again soon in our next week's episode, as well as in the Ultimate Man Project on our Monday
yeah.
night.
And if anybody wants some help getting coached with us and you want to join one of our Ultimate Man programs, just go to the link in the description. It's Get Coached link, and hit us up on there, and we'll get back to you and get you started.
That's awesome. All right, two things we always do, guys. We've stuck around to the end. You're here with us. First off, a toast to the Ultimate Man and the Ultimate Men out there. Cheers. Keep hydrated, boys.
Salute.
All right. I know people wait
My
around.
electrolytes in there too. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. We got guys who message in going, I love doing the cheers at the end. And then the fist bump, which we always do, just like a great team, MMA, boxing, whatever it is. We always kind of brought it in and everybody put that energy in together and then take off and get out there and take action. Action over information every time. So we gave a lot of information today. You go take a lot of action and we'll see you next time. Bring it in, boys.
Go team.